The words hit me like a slap across the face, even though I'd heard them 1,000 times before. "Where the hell have you been, you slut?" Marcus stood in the doorway of our bedroom, his face twisted with that familiar rage, his breath reeking of whiskey even though it was only 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'd been at the grocery store for 45 minutes. I had the bags in my hands to prove it. But proof didn't matter to Marcus, it never had. I set the bags down carefully on the kitchen counter, my hands steady even though my heart was racing. After 5 years of marriage, I'd learned not to react, not to cry, not to defend myself, because defending myself only made it worse. "I was at the store," I said quietly, pulling out the milk, the bread, the chicken breasts I'd bought for dinner. "I got everything on the list." "The list?" He laughed, that cold, mocking sound that made my skin crawl. "You think I'm stupid, you think I don't know what you're really doing when you leave this house." I didn't answer, there was no point. In Marcus's mind, I was always doing something wrong. Always cheating, always plotting, always trying to make him look like a fool. It didn't matter that I'd never so much as looked at another man since the day we met. It didn't matter that I spent every waking moment trying to be the perfect wife, walking on eggshells, anticipating his moods, doing everything I could to keep the peace. Nothing was ever enough. My name is Diane and I'm 32 years old, or at least I think I am. Sometimes I feel so much older, like I've lived 100 lifetimes in these 5 years. I used to be different, confident, full of dreams, quick to laugh. I used to teach 2nd grade at Riverside Elementary, used to have friends who called me on weekends, used to wear bright colors and dance in my kitchen while I cooked. That woman feels like a stranger now. Marcus and I met at a charity fundraiser 7 years ago. He was charming then, attentive, full of compliments about my smile, my laugh, the way I talked about my students. He pursued me with an intensity that felt flattering at the time. He sent flowers to my classroom. He showed up at my favorite coffee shop, claiming it was coincidence. He told me I was the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen, that he couldn't imagine his life without me. I thought it was love, I thought I'd found my person. We were married within a year. My mother had concerns, she said things were moving too fast, that I barely knew him, but I was 27 and convinced I'd found my soulmate. Marcus was successful, worked in finance, made good money. He wanted to take care of me, he said. He wanted me to quit teaching so I could focus on making a home for us, on starting a family. "You work too hard," he'd say, massaging my shoulders after a long day at school. "Let me take care of you, you deserve to be pampered, to relax." It sounded romantic at the time. I quit my job 3 months after the wedding. That's when things started to change. At first, it was small things. He didn't like when I wore certain clothes, said they were too revealing, that I was trying to attract attention from other men. He didn't like when I went out with my friends, said they were a bad influence, that they didn't respect our marriage. He wanted to know where I was at all times, would call me constantly when I was out, would get angry if I didn't answer immediately. "I just worry about you," he'd say. "Is that so wrong? I love you, I want to make sure you're safe." I told myself it was sweet, protective. I told myself that marriage meant compromise, that maybe I had been spending too much time with my friends, that maybe my clothes were a bit too tight. I started dressing more conservatively, I stopped going out as much. I checked in with him constantly, sent him pictures of where I was, who I was with. It still wasn't enough. The first time he called me a name, really called me a name, not just in anger but with pure venom, was about 6 months into our marriage. I'd been at the grocery store and ran into an old colleague, a male teacher from the school where I used to work. We'd chatted for maybe 5 minutes in the produce section, catching up, laughing about a funny story from the teacher's lounge. Someone Marcus knew saw us, told him I'd been flirting with some guy at the store. When I got home, Marcus was waiting. The rage in his eyes terrified me. He grabbed my arm so hard it left bruises, got right in my face, called me a whore, a cheater, a liar, said I'd embarrassed him, disrespected him, made him look like a fool. I tried to explain, tried to tell him it was just a colleague, just a friendly conversation, but he wouldn't listen. He spent the next 3 hours berating me, tearing apart my character, my integrity, my worth as a wife. Then, just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. He broke down crying, apologizing, saying he loved me so much it scared him, that he couldn't bear He thought of losing me, that his ex-girlfriend had cheated on him, and he was just so afraid I'd do the same. "I'm sorry," he sobbed into my shoulder. "I'm so sorry, I just love you so much, please forgive me." And I did, because I loved him too, Because I believed him when he said it would never happen again. Because I wanted to believe that this was just a rough patch, that we could work through it, that our love was strong enough to overcome his insecurity. But it happened again and again and again. The names got worse, the accusations got wilder, the control got tighter. He monitored my phone, my emails, my social media. He gave me an allowance even though we had a joint account, said he was just trying to help me budget. He wanted to know what I did every minute of every day. My friends stopped calling. My mother's visits became tense and awkward, with Marcus hovering, always present, never giving us a moment alone. I stopped going to church, stopped volunteering, stopped doing anything that might trigger his jealousy or anger. I became a ghost in my own life. And now here I was, standing in my kitchen on a cold December afternoon, being called a slut for buying groceries. Marcus stormed past me, grabbed a beer from the fridge, and disappeared into the living room. I heard the television click on, the sound of a football game filling the house. I stood there for a moment, staring at the bags of groceries, feeling that familiar numbness settle over me. Then I put everything away, started preparing dinner, moved through the motions like a robot. But something was different today. Something had shifted inside me just slightly. Maybe it was the way the cashier at the grocery store had smiled at me, asked me how my day was going, treated me like a person. Maybe it was the Christmas decorations I'd seen in people's windows on the drive home, reminding me of holidays past when I'd been happy. Maybe it was just exhaustion, soul-deep, bone-weary exhaustion from living like this. Whatever it was, a small voice in the back of my mind whispered something I hadn't allowed myself to think in years. This isn't love, this has never been love. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't immediately silence that voice. Part 2 of 7, Where the Hell Have You Been, USL*T, but he had no idea what was waiting on New Year's Eve. That night, Marcus passed out on the couch around 9 o'clock, an empty bottle on the floor beside him. I cleaned up quietly, washed the dishes, wiped down the counters, turned off all the lights except the one in the hallway. Then I did something I hadn't done in months. I went into the spare bedroom, the one Marcus used as an office, and opened my laptop. My hands shook as I typed into the search bar, signs of emotional abuse. The results filled the screen, and with each article I read, I felt something crack open inside my chest. It was like looking at a checklist of my marriage. Isolates you from friends and family, check. Controls your finances, check. Constantly accuses you of cheating, check. Uses insults and name-calling to break down your self-esteem, check. Makes you feel like you're walking on eggshells, check. I read for 2 hours, tears streaming down my face, my hand pressed against my mouth to keep from making any sound that might wake Marcus. Article after article, story after story from women who could have been writing about my life. I wasn't crazy, I wasn't overly sensitive, I wasn't the problem. Marcus was abusing me, maybe not with his fists, though there had been a few times he'd grabbed me hard enough to leave marks, but with his words, his control, his constant degradation of who I was. The realization should have been freeing, instead it was terrifying. Because if this was abuse, then what did that make me? A victim? I'd never thought of myself that way. Victims were weak, weren't they? Victims were women who didn't know better, who didn't have education or options or family who cared about them. But I had all those things, or at least I used to. I closed the laptop carefully, wiped my eyes, and went to bed in the spare room. I couldn't bear to sleep next to Marcus tonight, couldn't bear the weight of his arm across me, the smell of his breath, the sound of his snoring. I lay in the darkness, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. The next morning was a Saturday. Marcus woke up hungover and irritable, barely grunted at me when I made him coffee and eggs. He spent most of the day in front of the television, watching college football, drinking beer after beer despite it not even being noon yet. I went through my usual routine, laundry, cleaning, meal prep, but my mind was somewhere else entirely. I kept thinking about those articles, about the women who'd shared their stories, about the ones who'd said they finally left. How had they done it? Where had they found the courage? Around 3 o'clock, while Marcus was dozing on the couch again, I picked up my phone. Didn't called my mother in weeks. Marcus always found reasons why I couldn't, always listened in on my conversations, always had something critical to say afterward about what I'd told her. But today, I needed to hear her voice. I stepped out onto the back porch, closing the door quietly behind me. The December air was cold, and I wrapped my cardigan tighter around myself as I dialed. She answered on the second ring. "Diane, honey, is that you?" Her voice nearly broke me. "Hi, Mom." "Oh, sweetheart, it's so good to hear from you. I've been worried. You haven't called, and when I've tried to reach you, Marcus says you're busy or sleeping or—" She stopped herself. "How are you? How are things?" I opened my mouth to say the usual things. "I'm fine, everything's fine, just been busy," but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I heard myself say, "Mom, I need help." The silence on the other end lasted only a second. "What's wrong? Are you hurt? Do I need to call the police?" "No, nothing like that. I'm okay. I took a shaky breath. "I think I need to leave Marcus. I think I need to get out of this marriage." "Oh, thank God," she breathed. "Diane, I've been praying for this day. I've been so worried about you, watching you disappear, watching him control you, but I didn't know how to reach you, didn't know what to say that wouldn't push you further away." Tears spilled down my cheeks. I didn't want you to be right. I didn't want to admit that I'd made such a huge mistake, that I'd married someone who— I couldn't finish the sentence. "Someone who doesn't deserve you," my mother finished gently. "Diane, this isn't your fault. You didn't make a mistake by trusting someone, by believing the best in someone. He's the one who betrayed that trust. He's the one who chose to be cruel." "I don't know how to leave," I whispered. "I don't have a job, I don't have money of my own, all our accounts are joint, but he controls everything. I don't even know where I'd go." "You come here," she said immediately. "To me, your old room is still here exactly as you left it. You can stay as long as you need, and we'll figure out the rest, the job, the money, the divorce, we'll figure it all out together." "He won't just let me go, Mom. You don't know what he's like when he's angry." "Then we'll get the police involved, we'll get a restraining order, we'll do whatever we need to do to keep you safe." Her voice was steel beneath the gentleness. "You are my daughter, and I will not let that man hurt you anymore." I heard a sound inside the house, footsteps heavy and deliberate. "I have to go," I said quickly. "He's waking up." "Diane, wait, when will you leave?" "I don't know, soon. I have to plan it right, I have to." The back door opened. Marcus stood there, his eyes narrowed, his jaw tight. "Who are you talking to?" I felt my stomach drop. "My mom, just checking in." He held out his hand. "Give me the phone." "Marcus, I'm just—" "Give me the phone." I handed it over, my heart pounding. He put it to his ear. "Margaret? Yeah, it's Marcus. Listen, Diane's going to have to call you back. We're in the middle of something here." He paused, listening. "No, everything's fine. She's just been emotional lately. You know how women get." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Okay, bye now." He ended the call and pocketed my phone. "What did I tell you about talking to your mother without checking with me first?" "I just wanted to say hello. I haven't talked to her in—" "Because every time you talk to her, you come back all upset, all in your head about things. She fills your head with nonsense, makes you question us, question our marriage." He stepped closer, and I instinctively stepped back. "What were you telling her? Were you complaining about me, making me sound like some kind of monster?" "No, I wasn't." "Don't lie to me." His voice rose, sharp and cutting. "I heard you. I need help." "What the hell does that mean? What kind of help?" My mind raced, searching for something believable, something that wouldn't trigger his rage. "I was asking about Christmas presents. For you, I wanted her advice on what to get you." He stared at me for a long moment, his eyes searching my face. I kept my expression neutral, innocent, even as my pulse thundered in my ears. Finally, he seemed to accept it. "You don't need to ask your mother about gifts for me. You should know what I like by now." "You're right, I'm sorry, I should have just asked you." He grunted, mollified. "You're keeping your phone for now, but I'm checking it tonight. All your messages, all your calls. If I find out you've been talking to people behind my back, there will be consequences. Understand?" "I understand." He went back inside, and I stood there on the porch, shaking, my breath coming in short gasps. That had been close, too close. But something else had happened in that moment, something important. I'd lied to Marcus successfully, and I'd realized that if I could lie about something small, I could lie about something big. I could plan, I could prepare, and when the time was right, I could leave. I just had to be smart about it, patient, careful. I looked up at the sky, at the gray December clouds, and made myself a promise. I would be free before the new year. I would not spend another year of my life in this prison. December 21st, 10 days until New Year's Eve. I had 10 days to plan my escape. The next few days, I became someone I didn't recognize, someone calculating, someone strategic, someone who smiled at her husband while secretly planning to disappear from his life. I started small, little things Marcus wouldn't notice. On Sunday, while he was in the shower, I went through his wallet and took two $20 bills. Not enough that he'd realize they were missing, but enough to start a small emergency fund. I hid the money in an old tampon box under the bathroom sink, a place I knew Marcus would never look. On Monday, while he was at work, I called the local women's shelter. My hands shook so badly I could barely hold the phone. Safe Harbor Crisis Center, this is Jennifer speaking. Hi, my voice came out as barely a whisper. I need some information about leaving, about how to safely leave. Jennifer's voice was warm, professional, without a trace of judgment. You've called the right place. Can you talk freely right now, or do you need to call back at a safer time? I can talk, he's at work, but I don't have much time. That's okay, let me give you the most important information first. Do you have a safe place to go? My mother's house in Virginia, about 3 hours away. Good, that's very good. Do you have access to important documents, birth certificate, social security card, marriage license, any financial records? I thought about the filing cabinet in Marcus's office, always locked. He keeps everything locked up. I don't have access. That's all right, those can be replaced, though it takes time. What about money? Do you have any cash he doesn't know about? $40, that's all. Every little bit helps. Now here's what's most important. You need to pack a go bag, something you can grab quickly if you need to leave in a hurry. Change of clothes, toiletries, medications, phone charger. Hide it somewhere he won't look. Trunk of your car, a friend's house, even buried in the back of a closet under other things. I took mental notes of everything she said, my heart racing. When you're ready to leave, Jennifer continued, try to do it when he's not home. Don't tell him you're leaving, don't leave a note, don't give him any warning, just go. The most dangerous time for women in abusive relationships is when they try to leave. That sentence made my blood run cold. You think he'd hurt me physically? I can't predict what any individual might do, but emotional abuse often escalates when the abuser feels they're losing control. It's better to be safe than sorry. After I hung up, I sat in the silence of our house processing everything. Then I got to work. I found an old gym bag in the back of the hall closet and packed it carefully. Jeans, sweaters, underwear, socks, my toothbrush and basic toiletries, the few pieces of jewelry that had belonged to my grandmother. I added the $40, my birth control pills, a phone charger. Then I hid the bag in the trunk of my car under the spare tire. Marcus never looked there. On Tuesday, I did something even riskier. While Marcus was at work, I went through his office. The filing cabinet was locked, but I knew he kept the key on his keyring. I'd watched him open it enough times to know which key it was, small, brass with a square head. I found his spare keyring in the kitchen drawer where he kept random items, twist ties, rubber bands, old receipts, and there it was, the brass key. My hands were shaking so badly it took me 3 tries to unlock the cabinet. When it finally opened, I stared at the folders inside, so much of my life controlled by these papers. I found our marriage license, our joint bank account statements, and discovered that we had far more money than Marcus had ever told me, over $40,000 in savings, money I'd never known existed while he'd kept me on a $200 a month allowance. I found his life insurance policy. I was the beneficiary, $500,000. That made me pause. Why would he have such a large policy? We didn't have kids, we didn't have a mortgage, the house had been paid off by his parents as a wedding gift. I pushed the thought away and kept searching. I found copies of my birth certificate, my social security card, even my old teaching license. I wanted to take them, but I knew he'd notice. Instead, I took photos of everything with my phone, storing them in a hidden folder. Then I locked everything back up, returned the key to its drawer, and tried to calm my racing heart. That evening, Marcus came home in a good mood. He'd closed a big deal at work, and for once he wasn't looking for reasons to be angry. He even suggested we go out to dinner, something we hadn't done in months. At the restaurant, he was charming. He held my hand across the table, told me I looked beautiful, ordered a bottle of wine. To anyone watching, we looked like a happy couple. And for a moment, just a fleeting, dangerous moment, I wondered if I was making a mistake. If maybe things really could get better, if maybe this version of Marcus, the one I'd fallen in love with, could come back permanently. Then we got home and I realized I'd left a cabinet door open in the kitchen, just slightly ajar, something I'd done while packing my go bag and forgotten to close. Marcus saw it immediately. His whole demeanor changed in an instant. "Why is this open?" He gestured at the cabinet. "I must have forgotten to close it after I put the dishes away." "You must have forgotten." He walked closer, his eyes narrowing. "Or you were going through things, looking for something, were you?" "No, I just—" "What else did you leave open? What else were you going through?" He stormed toward his office and I felt panic seize my chest. I followed him, trying to keep my voice calm. "Marcus, I haven't been in your office. I was just putting away dishes and I forgot to close." He tried his filing cabinet, locked. He checked his desk drawers, closed. He looked around the room, searching for any sign of disturbance. Finally, he turned back to me. "If I find out you've been snooping, Diane, it's going to be bad. Do you understand me? I have private business information in here, client files, confidential things, if you've violated that trust." "I haven't been in here," I lied, meeting his eyes steadily. "I promise." He stared at me for what felt like an eternity, then he seemed to accept it. "Get out, I have work to do." I left quickly, closing the door behind me. In the kitchen, I finally let myself breathe. That had been too close. I needed to be more careful, more meticulous. Wednesday and Thursday passed in a blur of careful planning. I memorized my mother's address, her phone number, the route I'd take to get there. I mentally rehearsed what I'd do when the moment came: grab my purse, grab my keys, walk calmly to the car, drive away. Don't run, running attracts attention. Don't look back, looking back shows hesitation. Just go. On Friday, December 27th, Marcus announced he was going to his company's New Year's Eve party on the 31st. "You're coming with me," he said. It wasn't a question. "Of course," I replied, even as my mind spun with possibilities. New Year's Eve, a party, alcohol. Marcus would drink. He always did at work events. He'd get loud, boisterous, probably embarrass me like he always did, but he'd also be distracted. And distracted Marcus meant opportunity. "What time does it start?" I asked, keeping my tone casual. 7. It's at the Riverside Hotel downtown, open bar, dinner, the whole 9 yards. He looked at me critically. "Wear something nice, don't embarrass me." "I won't." But inside, my thoughts were racing. The Riverside Hotel was 40 minutes from our house. If I could slip away during the party, I'd have a head start. By the time Marcus noticed I was gone, realized I wasn't just in the bathroom, I could be halfway to my mother's house. It was risky, so risky, if he caught me trying to leave, if he figured out what I was planning. But I couldn't keep living like this, and something told me that if I didn't take this chance, I might not get another one. Saturday, I went to the bank. I told Marcus I needed to pick up some things for the party, a new dress, new shoes. He gave me $300 in cash, told me not to spend it all. I did go to the store. I bought a simple black dress, nothing fancy, on clearance for $45. But I also went to the bank and opened my own checking account with the remaining $255. A different bank than our joint account, one Marcus had no connection to. The teller, a kind woman in her 50s, smiled at me as she processed the paperwork, starting fresh in the new year. I smiled back, though my eyes stung with tears, something like that. Sunday, the day before New Year's Eve, was oddly peaceful. Marcus was in a good mood again, excited about the party, about showing off to his colleagues. He was attentive, almost loving, and it reminded me painfully of how things used to be. That night, as I lay next to him in bed, I let myself remember the early days. The flowers, the compliments, the way he used to look at me like I was the most precious thing in the world. But then I remembered something Jennifer from the crisis center had said. Abusers aren't abusive all the time. If they were, no one would stay. It's the good moments that make victims hope things can change, but hope without action is just another trap. I wasn't going to stay trapped. Tomorrow night I would be free. New Year's Eve arrived cold and clear, the kind of winter day that felt deceptively peaceful. I woke up before Marcus, my stomach twisted in knots, and went through the motions of making breakfast. Everything felt surreal, like I was watching myself from outside my body. This was it, the last morning I would wake up in this house, the last breakfast I would make for this man, the last day of my old life. Marcus came downstairs around 9, already checking his phone for messages from work. The party starts at 7, but we should get there by 7:30, he said without looking at me. Fashionably late, makes an impression. Okay, I said, flipping pancakes I had no intention of eating. And remember, you're there to be supportive. Smile, be pleasant, don't monopolize anyone's time. Last year you talked to Henderson's wife for like 20 minutes and I barely got to network with him. I'd talked to Henderson's wife because she'd been kind to me, because she'd asked about my life with genuine interest, because for 20 minutes I'd felt like a person instead of an accessory. But I didn't say that. I'll remember, I said. The day stretched out endlessly. I cleaned the house, did laundry, prepared everything as if I'd be coming back tomorrow. I didn't want Marcus to suspect anything was different. The go bag was still in my trunk. My new bank account information was memorized. My mother was expecting me. I'd managed to call her yesterday while Marcus was in the shower, told her tonight was the night. I'll be waiting up for you, she'd said, her voice tight with worry. You call me the second you're safe, the second you're in your car and away from him. I will, Mom, I promise. At 5 o'clock, I started getting ready. I showered, dried my hair, applied makeup with hands that trembled slightly. The black dress fit well, elegant but not flashy. I added the simple pearl earrings my grandmother had given me, the ones I'd already packed in my go bag. I wanted to wear them tonight, for courage. Marcus got ready in his usual way, methodical, particular, checking his appearance in the mirror multiple times. He wore his best suit, the charcoal gray one with the subtle pinstripe. He looked handsome, successful, like the kind of man who had his life together. No one would ever guess what he was really like behind closed doors. We left at 6:45. I took one last look at the house as we pulled out of the driveway, wondering if I'd ever see it again. Probably not, and that was fine. This house had never been a home, it had been a prison with pretty curtains. The drive to the Riverside Hotel was quiet. Marcus was focused, already in work mode, mentally preparing for the networking and small talk ahead. I sat in the passenger seat, my purse in my lap, my car keys tucked safely inside. Yes, my keys, I'd been strategic about that. Usually Marcus drove everywhere, but last week I'd mentioned that my car was making a funny noise, that I should probably drive it more to keep the battery charged. He'd agreed, distracted by work, so tonight we'd taken both cars. Easier for parking, I'd said, and if you want to stay late, I can always head home early if I get tired. He'd bought it, why wouldn't he? I'd never given him reason to think I'd leave. I'd been the perfect, compliant wife for 5 years. The hotel parking lot was already full when we arrived. Marcus found a spot near the front. I parked several rows back, closer to the exit. Marcus didn't notice. He was already scanning the lot for his boss's car, for the partners' vehicles, calculating who was already here and who he needed to impress. Inside, the ballroom was decorated with silver and gold, streamers, balloons, banners welcoming in the new year. A jazz band played in one corner. The open bar was already doing brisk business. Round tables filled the space, each with elaborate centerpieces and place cards. Marcus found our table strategically placed near the managing partners, but not so close as to seem presumptuous. He was good at these calculations, at positioning himself just right. Get me a scotch, he said, not asked. Neat, and get yourself something, wine, whatever, but not too much. I need you sharp tonight. I went to the bar, got his scotch and a glass of white wine for myself that I had no intention of drinking. I needed to be completely sober tonight, alert, ready. The evening progressed exactly as I'd expected. Marcus worked the room, shaking hands, laughing too loudly at his boss's jokes, talking about golf and market trends and things I'd stopped trying to follow years ago. I stood beside him, smiled when appropriate, made small talk with the other wives who looked as bored and trapped as I felt. By 8:30, Marcus was on his third scotch. By 9, his voice was getting louder, his gestures more expansive. By 9:30, he was holding court at a table of junior associates, telling the same story about closing a difficult deal that I'd heard 100 times. This was my moment. I touched his arm gently. "I'm going to the restroom," I said. "Hey?" Barely glanced at me. "Yeah, fine, don't be gone long." I walked calmly toward the hallway where the restrooms were located, but instead of going in, I kept walking, past the restrooms, past the coat check, straight toward the front lobby. My heart was pounding so hard I thought everyone must be able to hear it. Any second I expected to hear Marcus calling my name, demanding to know where I was going, but I didn't look back. Jennifer's words echoed in my mind, "Don't look back, looking back shows hesitation." I pushed through the front doors into the cold night air. The parking lot stretched out before me, my car visible in the distance. I walked toward it, not too fast, not too slow, just a woman getting something from her car. My hands shook as I unlocked it. I climbed in, closed the door, locked it immediately. For a moment I just sat there, breathing hard, hardly believing what I was doing. Then I started the engine. I pulled out of the parking lot slowly, normally, like I was just leaving any regular event. I turned right onto Main Street, heading toward the highway. In my rearview mirror, the hotel lights grew smaller and smaller. I made it to the highway entrance, merged into traffic, pointed my car north toward Virginia, toward my mother, toward freedom. Only then did I start to cry. Big, heaving sobs that came from somewhere deep in my chest. 5 years of tears I'd held back, 5 years of fear and pain and suffocating control. It all came pouring out as I drove, my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. I cried for the woman I used to be. I cried for the years I'd lost. I cried for how close I'd come to losing myself completely. But I was also crying from relief, pure, overwhelming relief. I'd done it. I'd actually done it. I was free. My phone started ringing at 10:15. Marcus, I didn't answer. It rang again and again and again. Then the text started. "Where are you? Dine answer your phone. This isn't funny, get back here now. You're embarrassing me, everyone is asking where you went. Answer me." I pulled into a gas station, hands still shaking. I blocked his number, then I called my mother. She answered immediately. "Diane, are you okay? Where are you?" "I'm on the highway, I'm about 2 hours away. Mom, I did it, I left." I heard her exhale, long and shaky. "Oh, thank God, baby, are you safe? Is he following you?" I checked my rearview mirror, just normal highway traffic, no sign of Marcus's car. "I don't think so, I don't think he even knows I'm gone yet. He was drunk, distracted by the party." "Keep driving, don't stop except for gas if you need it. When you get here, we'll figure out the next steps. We'll call the police, file a report, start the protection order process." Okay, I took a deep breath. "Mom, I'm scared. What if he finds me? What if he?" "He's not going to find you. You're going to be safe here. I promise you, sweetheart, I promise." I drove through the night, my mother on speakerphone, talking to me the whole way. She told me about everything I'd missed, family dinners, holidays, her garden, the new neighbors. She filled the silence with her voice, keeping me grounded, keeping me focused on moving forward. At 11:30, my phone started ringing from an unknown number. Marcus, calling from someone else's phone. I didn't answer. At 11:45, another unknown number, then another. He was desperate now, frantic, probably making a scene at the party as he realized I wasn't coming back. At 11:55, I crossed into Virginia. 5 more minutes until midnight, 5 more minutes until a new year. I thought about where I'd been a year ago, standing next to Marcus at a different party, counting down to midnight, letting him kiss me while I died a little more inside. thinking that maybe this year would be different, maybe this year he'd change. But people like Marcus don't change, and I'd wasted enough years hoping. At exactly midnight, as fireworks exploded somewhere in the distance, as the radio played Auld Lang Syne, as people all over the country celebrated new beginnings, I pulled into my mother's driveway. She was waiting on the porch, wrapped in her bathrobe, and the second I got out of the car, she ran down the steps and pulled me into her arms. "You're home," she said, crying. "You're finally home." And for the first time in 5 years, I felt like I could breathe. Part 5 of 7, Where the Hell Have You Been, USL*T, but he had no idea what was waiting on New Year's Eve. I didn't sleep that night, neither did my mother. We sat at her kitchen table, the same one where I'd done my homework as a child, where I'd eaten breakfast before school, where I'd laughed with friends over coffee in what felt like another lifetime. She made chamomile tea that neither of us drank, and I told her everything. Not the sanitized version I'd given her over the years when she'd asked if I was happy, not the careful lies I'd constructed to protect Marcus's Ima. Everything, the names he called me, the isolation, the control, the constant surveillance, the way he'd made me feel like I was losing my mind. My mother listened without interrupting, her hands wrapped around her mug, tears streaming silently down her face. "I knew," she said when I finally finished. "Not all of it, but I knew something was very wrong. I saw you disappearing, becoming a shadow of yourself, but I didn't know how to reach you. Every time I tried to talk to you, he was there, hovering, controlling the conversation, and I was so afraid that if I pushed too hard, you'd cut me off completely." "I almost did," I admitted. "He wanted me to. He was always suggesting that maybe we should move across the country, get away from negative influences. That's what he called you, a negative influence." She reached across the table and took my hand. "Well, this negative influence is going to make sure you're never under his control again." At 2 a.m., my phone, which I'd turned on silent, showed 47 missed calls and 89 text messages, all from unknown numbers, all Marcus trying different ways to reach me. The texts had evolved throughout the night. "Where are you? This isn't funny. Dine answer me right now. You're making a huge mistake. Come back and we'll talk. I'm sorry if I upset you, just come back. You can't just leave like this, we're married. Fine, run to your mother, see how long that lasts. You'll come crawling back, you always do. You're nothing without me, nothing. I'll find you, you know I will." That last one made my hands shake. My mother saw my face and took the phone from me. She read through the messages, her expression hardening with each one. "We're calling the police right now. Mom, it's 2 in the morning. I don't care what time it is, these are threats, this is harassment, we're documenting everything and filing a report." She was right, of course. So I called, and 30 minutes later, a police officer, a woman in her 40s named Officer Patricia Chen, sat in our living room taking notes as I explained what had happened. "Have you ever felt physically unsafe with your husband?" she asked. I thought about the times Marcus had grabbed me, shoved me, backed me into corners, nothing that left lasting marks, nothing I could prove. "Yes," I said, "not all the time, but yes." "Has he ever hit you?" "He's grabbed me hard enough to leave bruises, he's thrown things near me, he's blocked doorways so I couldn't leave rooms, I swallowed hard. "He's made me afraid for my safety even if he never actually hit me." Officer Chen nodded, writing everything down. "I'm going to file this report, and I'm going to recommend you apply for an emergency protective order first thing tomorrow morning when the courthouse opens. Given the threatening nature of these messages and your statement about feeling unsafe, I think a judge will grant it." "What does that do?" I asked. "It legally requires him to stay away from you. No contact, no coming within a certain distance. If he violates it, he can be arrested immediately." She looked at me seriously. "I have to tell you, though, protective orders are pieces of paper. They work for people who respect the law. If your husband is unstable, if he's determined to find you, you need to take additional precautions." The weight of that settled over me like a blanket of ice. After Officer Chen left, my mother made up my old bedroom, fresh sheets, extra blankets, a glass of water on the nightstand. The room looked exactly as it had when I'd moved out 7 years ago. My bookshelf still held my college textbooks. My bulletin board still had photos of friends I'd lost touch with, evidence of the person I used to be. "Try to get some sleep," Mom said, kissing my forehead. "Tomorrow we'll deal with the protective order and figure out next steps, but tonight you're safe, you're home." I lay in my childhood bed staring at the glow-in-the-dark stars I'd stuck to the ceiling when I was 12 and tried to process everything that had happened. 24 hours ago, I'd been trapped, controlled, suffocating. Now I was free. It didn't feel real yet. Part of me kept expecting to hear Marcus's car pulling into the driveway, his key in the lock, his voice demanding I come home. But he didn't have a key to this house. He didn't even know the address. I'd always met my mother at restaurants when we got together, never brought him here. He knew she lived in Virginia, but it was a big state. He'd have to search. And I had a head start. I must have dozed off around 4 a.m. because the next thing I knew, sunlight was streaming through the window and I could smell coffee brewing downstairs. I checked my phone, 9:47 a.m., New Year's Day. More messages had come in overnight. "I talked to your mother's neighbor, I know where you are." My blood ran cold, then I remembered my mother had moved 2 years ago. He might know her old address but not this one. He was bluffing, trying to scar. Ime. I went downstairs. My mother was already dressed, her purse ready by the door. "The courthouse opens at 10, she said. "I already called. They can see us at 10:30 for the emergency protective order. I also called my lawyer, my friend Patricia's daughter who's a lawyer. She specializes in family law and she's agreed to take your case." "I can't afford a lawyer, Mom. I don't have money." "Yes, you do. You have me and I have savings, and we're going to use whatever we need to make sure you're protected." Her voice was firm, leaving no room for argument. "You're my daughter. This is what mothers do." At the courthouse, we met with a judge who reviewed my statement, Officer Chen's report, and the threatening text messages. She was an older black woman with silver hair and kind eyes that had probably seen too many cases like mine. "Mrs. Morrison," she said, "I'm granting you an emergency protective order for 30 days. This prohibits your husband from contacting you by any means, from coming within 500 feet of you, your mother, or this residence. If he violates this order, call the police immediately. Do you understand?" "Yes, Your Honor, thank you." "I'm also going to recommend you apply for a permanent order at the end of these 30 days, and I strongly encourage you to file for divorce as soon as possible. Men like your husband don't let go easily. The sooner you legally sever this relationship, the safer you'll be." The lawyer my mother had found, Jennifer Ross, a woman in her mid-30s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense attitude, met us right after the hearing. "Here's what we're going to do," she said, spreading papers across her desk. "We're filing for divorce immediately. Virginia requires a 6-month separation period, but given the documented abuse, we can petition for a fault-based divorce which can be expedited. We're also going to freeze your joint accounts so he can't drain them out of spite." "Can we do that?" I asked. "Absolutely. It's standard in divorce proceedings where there's financial control involved. You're entitled to half of everything, the money in the accounts, the value of the house, his retirement funds. He controlled the money during the marriage, but that doesn't mean it's only his." "He's going to fight this," I said. "He's going to make it as difficult as possible." Jennifer smiled grimly. "Let him try. I've dealt with men like Marcus Morrison before, bullies, control freaks. They think they can intimidate everyone, but the law is on your side here, Diane, and I don't intimidate easily." We spent the next 3 hours filling out paperwork, making copies of documents, building the case for divorce. By the time we left Jennifer's office, my hand was cramping from signing forms and my head was spinning with legal terminology. But I also felt something new, something I hadn't felt in 5 years. Power, agency, control over my own life. My mother took me to lunch at a little cafe downtown. I ordered a salad, then stopped myself. "Actually," I said to the waitress, "can I change that? I'd like the burger with extra cheese and fries." My mother smiled. "When did you stop eating burgers?" "When Marcus said they were too messy, too fattening, unladylike." I felt tears prick my eyes. I used to love burgers. "Then you're going to have all the burgers you want from now on." It was such a small thing, such a tiny act of defiance. But when that burger arrived and I took the first bite, it felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. We spent the afternoon at Target buying things I needed: toiletries, comfortable clothes, a new phone number that Marcus wouldn't have. My mother insisted on paying for everything. "You can pay me back when you're on your feet," she said. "Consider it an investment in your future." That evening, my phone rang from yet another unknown number. This time I answered. I needed to know. "Hello." Diane. Marcus's voice was cold, controlled, more frightening than when he yelled. "We need to talk." "We have nothing to talk about. I'm filing for divorce. You'll be served with papers within the week." "You can't divorce me." "I can. I am." "Diane, listen to me carefully." His voice dropped even lower. "You're making the biggest mistake of your life. You think you can just walk away. You think there won't be consequences. The only consequences will be for you if you violate the protective order I was granted this morning. Stay away from me, Marcus. I'm done." "You're done when I say you're done. You're my wife. That means something." "It meant something when you promised to love and honor me. You broke those vows a long time ago. If you don't come back by the end of the week, you're going to regret it. I promise you that. Goodbye, Marcus." I hung up, blocking that number too. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from anger, from 5 years of swallowed words finally finding their voice. My mother had heard the whole conversation. "He's not going to accept this." "I know. We need to be careful, very careful." "I know that too." But what I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, was just how far Marcus would go to maintain control. Just how dangerous a man becomes when he realizes he's lost everything he thought he owned, including his wife. Part 6 of 7. Where the hell have you been, USL*T? But he had no idea what was waiting on New Year's Eve. The first week of January passed in a strange blur of paperwork and caution. I stayed inside my mother's house mostly, afraid to venture out, afraid of seeing Marcus's car around every corner. Jennifer Ross called daily with updates on the divorce proceedings. Marcus had been served with papers on January 3rd. According to the process server, he'd torn them up in front of her and slammed the door in her face. "That's fine," Jennifer said. "It's documented that he received them. Whether he rips them up or frames them doesn't change the legal reality." Marcus's attempts to contact me continued, though less frequently after I changed my number. He tried calling my mother's house. She'd blocked him. He tried emailing. I'd created a new account. He even tried reaching out through old mutual friends, people I hadn't spoken to in years. One friend, Kelly, actually called me. We'd been close once before Marcus had systematically cut her out of my life. "Diane, I got the strangest call from Marcus," she said. "He said you'd had some kind of mental breakdown, that you'd run away and weren't thinking clearly. He wanted me to convince you to come home." "Kelly, I didn't have a breakdown. I left because he was abusive. Emotionally, psychologically abusive for 5 years. There was a long silence on the other end. Then, "Oh my God, Diane, I'm so sorry. I should have. When you stopped calling, stopped responding to texts, I should have known something was wrong. I just thought, I don't know what I thought. You thought I'd chosen him over our friendship. That's what he wanted everyone to think. What can I do? How can I help? Just, if he contacts you again, don't tell him anything about me. Don't tell him you talked to me, please." "I won't, I promise. And Diane, I'm proud of you for getting out." Those words meant more than she could know. On January 8th, I got an email from an address I didn't recognize, but the subject line made my blood run cold. "You can't hide forever." I almost deleted it without opening it, almost, but something made me click. "Diane, I don't know what your mother has told you, what lies she's filled your head with, but this isn't you. You don't give up on marriage. You don't throw away 5 years because of some rough patches. I've been patient. I've given you space to cool down, to think rationally, but my patience is running out. You need to come home. We need to work this out like adults. If you refuse, you're going to force me to take actions I don't want to take. I know people. I have resources. I will find you, and when I do, you're going to wish you'd come back on your own. This is your last warning. Marcus." I forwarded the email to Jennifer immediately. She called within minutes. "This is good," she said. Good, he's threatening me. Exactly, and now we have it in writing. This strengthens our case for the permanent protective order and helps establish a pattern of harassment for the divorce proceedings. Every time he contacts you, every time he threatens you, he's helping us build a case against him. I'm not sure that makes me feel better. I understand, but legally he's digging his own grave. Keep forwarding me everything, every call, every message, every attempt at contact. On January 10th, something shifted. The messages stopped, the calls stopped, everything went quiet. It should have been a relief. Instead, it filled me with dread. He's planning something, I told my mother. Marcus doesn't just give up. Maybe he's finally accepted reality, she said, but her eyes betrayed her own worry. I started looking for work. My teaching license needed to be renewed, but I could substitute teach while I got my credentials updated. I applied at 3 school districts in the area, hoping someone would take a chance on a teacher who'd been out of the classroom for 5 years. Riverside Elementary, ironically enough, called me back. We actually have an emergency opening, the principal, Dr. Hayes, said during our phone interview. One of our second-grade teachers had a family emergency and had to leave mid-year. We need someone who can start immediately. Your resume shows you have experience with second grade. Yes, that's what I taught before I left the profession. Would you be available to come in for an interview tomorrow? Tomorrow, back in a classroom, back to being the person I used to be. Yes, I said I'd love to. The interview went well. Dr. Hayes was a warm woman in her 60s who seemed more interested in my passion for teaching than my employ. Gap, I was honest with her to a point. I took time off for personal reasons, I said. My marriage, but I'm ready to come back now, more than ready. She studied me for a moment. Sometimes we need to step away from things to remember who we are. I think you'll be a good fit here, Mrs. Morrison, or is it MS? Actually, I said, the words feeling powerful in my mouth, I'm going back to my maiden name, Ms. Diane Carter. Well, Ms. Carter, when can you start? Monday. I left the school walking on air. I had a job, I had income, I had independence. I was rebuilding. That night, I celebrated with my mother over Chinese takeout, another thing Marcus had never let me have because he claimed it was low-quality food. I'm so proud of you, Mom said, raising her glass of wine. Look at you, 10 days ago you were trapped in that nightmare and now you're building a whole new life. I clinked my glass against hers. I couldn't have done it without you. Yes, you could have, you would have found a way, you're stronger than you know. I wanted to believe that. I wanted to believe I was the strong, capable woman she saw, but a part of me still felt fragile, like I might shatter if Marcus pushed hard enough. That night around 11 p.m., my mother's doorbell rang. We both froze. My mother looked at me, her eyes wide. Are you expecting anyone? No. The doorbell rang again, then someone knocked hard. My mother went to the window, peeked through the curtains. Her face went pale. It's him, she whispered. It's Marcus. My heart stopped. How did he find us? I don't know, but I'm calling the police right now. She grabbed her phone, dialing 911. Marcus knocked again, louder. Diane, I know you're in there. We need to talk. Don't answer, I said, my voice shaking. Don't let him know we're here. But he already knew. Diane, come out here right now. I drove 3 hours to talk to you. The least you can do is face me like an adult. My mother spoke quietly into the phone, giving our address, explaining about the protective order, saying her daughter's estranged husband was violating it. They're sending someone, she said to me. 5 minutes. 5 minutes felt like an eternity. Marcus kept knocking, kept shouting. You can't hide from me forever. You're my wife. You think some piece of paper changes that. You think you can just walk away from me. Then I heard something that made my blood run cold, the sound of glass breaking, the back door. He's trying to get in, my mother said, her voice tight with fear. We ran upstairs, locked ourselves in her bedroom. I pushed her dresser in front of the door while she stayed on the phone with the 911 operator. He's breaking in, she said into the phone. Please hurry. I could hear Marcus downstairs now, moving through the house. Diane, where are you? Come out and talk to me. His footsteps on the stairs, getting closer. Diane, please, I just want to talk, I just want us to work this out. His voice was different now, pleading, almost gentle, the voice he used after he'd been cruel when he wanted me to forgive him. But I wasn't falling for it anymore. He tried the bedroom door, found it locked. Diane, open this door, come on baby, let's just talk. The police are coming, Marcus, my mother called out, you need to leave now. Shut up, his voice turned venomous. This is between me and my wife, you've poisoned her against me, filled her head with your toxic feminist bullshit, but she's coming home with me tonight whether you like it or not. He started ramming the door, the dresser shook with each impact. Then finally sirens, red and blue lights flashing through the window. Marcus's ramming stopped, I heard him curse, heard his footsteps running back down the stairs. He's running, my mother said into the phone, he's trying to leave. But the police were already there, we heard voices downstairs, authoritative and commanding. Police, stop where you are, hands where we can see them. We waited in that bedroom, clutching each other, until we heard a knock. Ms. Carter, Mrs. Carter, this is Officer Rodriguez, it's safe to come out now. My mother moved the dresser, opened the door. 2 officers stood there, Officer Rodriguez and a younger officer whose name tag read Wilson. We have him in custody, Rodriguez said. He's being arrested for violating the protective order, breaking and entering, and attempted assault. Are either of you hurt? No, I managed, we're okay. Downstairs I could see Marcus in handcuffs in the back of a police car. Even from here I could see the rage on his face. He was yelling something, but I couldn't hear the words through the glass. He'll be held overnight at minimum, Officer Rodriguez explained. Given the severity of the violations and the threatening behavior, the judge might deny bail. Either way, you'll be notified before he's released. What if he comes back? I asked. We're going to document all of this, the BR. Oaken window, the forced entry, his threats. This is serious, Ms. Carter. He's facing felony charges now, and we can help you strengthen your protective order, maybe even get him ordered to stay in a different county. After the police left, after my mother's neighbor came over to help board up the broken window, after we'd given our statements and taken photos and done everything we needed to do, we sat in the kitchen in silence. I was so scared, my mother finally said. When I heard that glass break, I thought, I know, me too. But you didn't go to him, even when he was begging, using that soft voice, you didn't open the door. No, I didn't, and I realized something important. I don't love him anymore, Mom. I don't think I have for a long time. What I felt wasn't love. It was fear and obligation and this desperate hope that if I just tried hard enough, I could fix him. But you can't fix someone who doesn't think they're broken. She squeezed my hand. No, you can't. That night, I didn't sleep at all. But for the first time since I'd left, it wasn't because I was afraid Marcus would find me. It was because I'd faced him. He'd come for me, tried to intimidate me, tried to force me back under his control. And I'd said no. With a locked door and a phone call and the law on my side, I'd said no. He was in jail now, facing charges, facing consequences for his actions. And I was free. Marcus was denied bail. Jennifer called me the morning after his arrest with the news. The judge considered him a flight risk and a danger to you. He's going to remain in custody until the trial for the breaking and entering charges. That could be weeks, maybe months. I felt something loosen in my chest, so I'm safe for now. For now, yes, but Diane, we need to talk about what comes next. Even after he serves time for this, he'll eventually get out. We need to make sure you have long-term protection in place. Over the next few weeks, my life began to take shape in ways I'd almost forgotten were possible. I started teaching at Riverside Elementary on January 14th. Walking into that second-grade classroom felt like coming home. 22 little faces looked up at me with curiosity and hope, and I remembered why I'd loved this job so much. These children didn't care about my past or my mistakes. They just wanted someone who would help them learn, who would see them, who would make them feel safe. I could do that, I could be that for them. My students, bright, funny, exhausting, gave me purpose again. There was Jasmine, who loved reading but struggled with math. Marcus, who was brilliant at everything but couldn't sit still for more than 5 minutes. Alia, who drew pictures of her family during every free moment. They reminded me that life was bigger than my failed marriage, bigger than Marcus's control, bigger than my fear. The other teachers welcomed me warmly. Several were around my age, and within weeks I found myself being invited to happy hours, to book clubs, to weekend brunches. I said yes to everything, rebuilding the social life Marcus had systematically destroyed. One teacher, Andrea, became a particularly close friend. Over coffee one Saturday, I finally told her the truth about why I'd been out of teaching for 5 years. I was married to someone who convinced me that my world should revolve around him, I said, who made me believe that teaching was taking time away from being a good wife, who isolated me from everyone I cared about until he was the only person left in my life. Andrea reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You got out, that's what matters, so many women don't. I almost didn't if it hadn't been for my mother. For one moment of clarity on New Year's Eve, I shook my head. I was drowning and I didn't even realize it. But you're swimming now, look at you, you have a job, an apartment hunt underway, friends, you're rebuilding your entire life from scratch. That takes incredible courage. I was apartment hunting. As much as I loved my mother, I needed my own space. I needed to prove to myself that I could stand on my own 2 feet. I found a small one-bedroom in a quiet complex 15 minutes from the school. It wasn't fancy, but it had big windows that let in lots of light and a little balcony where I could put plants. It was mine, just mine. I signed the lease on February 1st, moved in with my mother's help on February 3rd. We spent the weekend shopping for furniture at thrift stores and discount places, assembling bookshelves and hanging curtains. It felt like playing house, except this time I was making all the decisions. Blue walls in the bedroom because I liked blue, a comfortable couch even though it didn't match anything, mismatched dishes that made me smile. Every choice was mine, every decision was freedom. The divorce proceedings moved forward. Marcus, through his lawyer, tried to fight everything: the asset division, the timeline, even basic facts about our marriage. Boo. Jennifer was relentless. She presented the documented abuse, the police reports, the threatening messages. She painted a picture of a controlling, dangerous man who'd systematically destroyed his wife's autonomy. He wants to drag this out, Jennifer explained during one of our meetings. He thinks if he makes it difficult enough, expensive enough, you'll give up and come back. That's his pattern of behavior, but we're not backing down. In March, Marcus was sentenced for the breaking and entering charges. 6 months in county jail, followed by 2 years probation and mandatory anger management classes. The judge also extended my protective order for 5 years. Mr. Morrison, the judge said during sentencing, you have shown a disturbing pattern of controlling and threatening behavior toward your wife. This court takes domestic violence very seriously. You will serve your time, and when you're released, you will stay away from Ms. Carter. If you violate these terms, you will go back to jail. Do you understand? Marcus, dressed in an orange jumpsuit, his hair disheveled, his face hard, nodded once. But as they let him out of the courtroom, he looked directly at me. There was no love in his eyes, no remorse, just cold, calculating anger. I didn't look away. I met his gaze steadily until he was gone. How do you feel? My mother asked afterward. I searched for the right word. I feel like I just watched a chapter close, a terrible, painful chapter, but it's over now. I can move forward. And I did. Spring came, bringing cherry blossoms and warm breezes and the sense that everything was possible again. My students thrived under my teaching. I got excellent reviews from Dr. Hayes and was offered a permanent contract for the next school year. I made new friends, tried new restaurants, took a pottery class just because it sounded fun. I went on a few dates, nothing serious, nothing that went anywhere. I wasn't ready for serious yet. But it felt good to remember that I was a person men could be interested in, that I could have conversations without walking on eggshells, that I could laugh without wondering what price I'd pay for it later. In April, I did something I'd been thinking about for months. I went to therapy. Dr. Sarah Michaels specialized in trauma recovery, and from our first session, I felt like she understood. She didn't judge me for staying as long as I had. She didn't ask why I hadn't left sooner. She just helped me understand the psychology of abuse, the way it creeps in slowly, the way it rewires your brain to normalize the abnormal. You're not weak for staying, she told me. You're strong for leaving, that's what matters. Through therapy, I began to understand how much damage Marcus had done. not just to my self-esteem or my social life, but to my fundamental sense of self. He'd convinced me that my thoughts weren't valid, that my feelings were overreactions, that my perception of reality couldn't be trusted. It was gaslighting, manipulation, psychological abuse, all wrapped up in the language of love and concern. But I was healing now, slowly, sometimes painfully, but healing. In May, I got the call I'd been waiting for. The divorce was final. After 5 years of marriage and 6 months of legal battles, I was officially free. "It's done," Jennifer said. "You got a fair settlement, half the savings, half the value of the house which he'll have to refinance or sell. You're legally divorced and legally protected. Congratulations, Ms. Carter." I hung up the phone and just sat there in my little apartment, letting it sink in. I wasn't Mrs. Morrison anymore. I was Diane Carter, teacher, survivor, free woman. I called my mother. "It's over. The divorce is final." She cried, "Oh baby, I'm so proud of you, so incredibly proud." That night I had a small celebration, just me, my mother, Andrea, and a few other friends from school. We ate takeout and drank wine and laughed until our sides hurt. No one mentioned Marcus. No one asked about the past. We just celebrated the present and the future. As the evening wound down and everyone left, I stood on my little balcony looking out at the city lights. It was late May, almost 6 months since that New Year's Eve when I'd walked out of the Riverside Hotel and into my new life. 6 months, half a year. I thought about the woman I'd been scared, controlled, convinced she was crazy. I thought about that moment in the hallway, smelling smoke, knowing something was deeply wrong. I thought about finding the courage to search for information, to call my mother, to plan my escape. I thought about all the times I could have given up, could have gone back, could have convinced myself that maybe Marcus would change. But I hadn't. I'd kept moving forward, one terrifying step at a time. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. My heart jumped, then I read it. "Ms. Carter, this is Jasmine's mom. I just wanted to say thank you for everything you've done for my daughter this year. She loves your class and you've helped her confidence grow so much. We're lucky to have you as her teacher." I read it 3 times, tears streaming down my face. This was why I'd fought so hard, not just for myself but for moments like this. For the chance to be the person I was meant to be, for the opportunity to make a difference in small, meaningful ways. For the freedom to live a life that was truly mine. It's been a year now since that New Year's Eve. Marcus was released from jail in September, but I haven't seen him. As far as I know, he's moved to another state, though I don't know for sure and I don't want to know. The protective order is still in place. If he violates it, if he tries to contact me, he goes back to jail. I'm still teaching at Riverside Elementary. I got promoted to grade level lead this year, which means I help mentor new teachers and develop curriculum. I love it. I'm still living in my little apartment, though I've made it more mine. New paint, plants everywhere, photos of friends and family covering the walls. I adopted a cat, a gray tabby I named Hope. She curls up next to me every night while I grade papers or read books I'd been forbidden to read when I was married. I'm dating someone. His name is James, and he's kind and patient and respectful. He knows my story. I told him on our 3rd date, wanting to be honest, wanting to give him the chance to walk away if my past was too much. He didn't walk away. He held my hand and said, "Thank you for trusting me with that. I promise I'll never give you reason to feel unsafe." It's still new, still fragile, but it's built on honesty and respect, the things my marriage to Marcus never had. My mother and I are closer than we've ever been. We have dinner every Sunday, and sometimes I just sit in her kitchen while she cooks, grateful for her presence, for her unwavering support, for the way she never gave up on me even when I'd almost given up on myself. I think about Marcus sometimes, not with love or longing but with a kind of sad understanding. He's a broken person who broke other people because he couldn't face his own brokenness. I hope he's getting help. I hope he's becoming someone better. But that's not my responsibility anymore. My responsibility is to myself, to my students, to building a life worth living. And I'm doing that. Every single day I'm doing that. So let me ask you something, and I want you to really think about your answer. If you found yourself in a situation like mine, trapped, controlled, convinced you were the problem, would you have the courage to leave? Would you recognize the signs before you were in too deep? And if you know someone who seems isolated, who's changed, who's lost themselves in a relationship, will you reach out? Will you be the lifeline they might desperately need? Because here's what I learned. Abuse doesn't always look like bruises and broken bones. Sometimes it looks like a man who loves you too much, who worries too much, who just wants to take care of you. Until one day you wake up and realize you've disappeared and you don't know how to find yourself again. But you can find yourself. It's never too late. It's never impossible. It just takes one moment of clarity, one decision to choose yourself, one step toward freedom. I took that step on New Year's Eve, walking out of that hotel into the cold night air. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. It was also the best thing I've ever done. If you're reading this and you see yourself in my story, please know you're not alone, you're not crazy, you're not the problem, and you can get out. There are people who will help you: hotlines, shelters, lawyers, therapists, people like my mother, like Jennifer, like Dr. Michaels, like Officer Chen, people who understand and who will fight alongside you. You deserve a life where you can eat burgers and wear what you want and talk to whoever you choose. You deserve a life where you're not walking on eggshells, where you're not afraid of your partner's moods, where you're not constantly second-guessing your own sanity. You deserve freedom. And it's waiting for you on the other side of fear, on the other side of that one brave decision. All you have to do is take the first step.